Hey everyone, I am on top of this kind of mini summit at the Carl Hansen Woods in next to Poplar Creek Trail, and what I wanted to do is talk about walking for stress. I promised a couple patients that I would put the video out on how to begin a walking program, or at least what the value is, and I'm going to try to talk even though it's about 31 degrees and my lips are kind of not following what my mind is telling them to do. It's not like being attacked or being in a car accident, but there are many stressors that get most of us to have problems with maybe anxiety, high blood pressure, reflux, insomnia, and sometimes they won't be those life-threatening stressors, but they'll be enough to heighten the stress response. What we'll notice as doctors is that your blood pressure will be a little higher than usual. I mean, you can certainly take about 5 minutes, lie back, do some deep breathing, turn off the lights, and hopefully the blood pressure goes back down, which it usually does. But that, to me, doesn't just give you a diagnosis of white coat hypertension. It also tells me that maybe we got some mini stressors that have to be addressed. What I'll do is see what is imbalanced in life and add a couple of suggestions for mindful practice. Sometimes mindful practice doesn't really resonate with a lot of folks, and it's okay. It's something that we're not given in the American school system, short of when you are sent to the principal's office and you sit there waiting in the hallway or waiting in that special chair that all the bad kids wait at. You are allowed to reflect on the discussion you might be having with your principal, or possibly having your parents called into the office or to the school. And during that time with reflection, it'll sometimes give you a sense of, all right, what do I do? How am I going to fix this? What should I have done better? Sometimes. I'm sure some people don't do that, but it's still a nice practice to slow down that speed of the internet or that speed of traffic, 9 to 5, getting work done, multitasking, all those attributes, at least being able to handle all those attributes is acknowledgeable, but you also have to be just as good with being in the moment or having some form of mindful practice, whether it's doing a yoga class or on a every once in a while, or having a more routine practice. I always suggest that if your brain and your body can get an exposure or a taste of the relaxation response at least twice a day, every day, that would be good. I mean, for those athletes who experience the endorphin rush from exercise, those athletes feel bad when they don't exercise every day. Runners feel bad or feel out of shape. Or I've actually had some runners have depression or reactive depression during times when they're recuperating from an injury. And there is a great feeling when you get that endorphin rush, but sometimes, no, not sometimes, but oftentimes you can have the same thing from having a serotonin high. Check out my video, I'll see if I can put a link to it here, and it's so much easier than having to go to a gym or having to go out to exercise with a group. So when I mention mindful practice, everybody's go-to is yoga, and I think that is good, especially with the right yoga teacher and or the right yoga class. I think you can experience a lot of mindful practice during the yoga and the poses and the breath and the guided imagery that your teacher takes you through. But if you only do it once a week, that's better than nothing. But during the other 6 days a week, you're not answering the stress response. And again, those are mini stressors. Well, for some of you who are watching this, probably have big stressors, whether you're being bullied at school, have a dysfunctional family, a boss that's rude, whatever it is, the idea is with your stressors or your stress response, as good as you might think you are with it, it's always better to have a relaxation response that you can practice and call on. So getting back to why I'm doing this video, sometimes if the meditation thing doesn't resonate with you, then getting out to nature might be just as good. And walking is the easiest thing. For my beginners who don't go to gyms or power lift or do CrossFit, that's okay. Even if you don't do those Jack LaLanne calisthenics once a day, twice a day, that's all right. The idea though is you can kill two birds with one stone. If you get out, like now I got out, it's 31 degrees in Chicago and my family was asleep. Well, my wife is just starting to wake up, but it's a Sunday and I wanted to try to get out just to experience, well, number one, so I can still have time on this Sunday to have fun with the family since my daughter's home from college. Number two, it's nice to be out in wilderness when you're the only one. Now, I mean, it's in the middle of Chicago. It's not like going to Glacier Park, Montana, but it's still, I'm surrounded, that's why I'm doing these 360s. I'm surrounded by nature. And one of the cool things is, even if you don't have a mindful practice, walking in nature, walking on green, walking around your neighborhood is a way to disconnect with the usual things I mentioned previously. When you can disconnect long enough, then the brain actually lets go of that really good problem-solving technique that we have and are getting exposed to all the time. And there's a part of your brain that actually gets to develop, and that's the part that releases serotonin. It's the part that creatively thinks, creates music, draws, the artistry comes out. It's a different part of the brain than the problem-solving part. So when you're allowed to exercise or develop that part of your brain, then great things can happen. You also will be able to lower blood pressure, have better sleep, maybe have improvement in sexual function. I can't tell you how many guys always want to address just taking testosterone for erectile dysfunction, but they don't want to do anything for the stress response that's probably responsible for having them need Viagra. Well, I think this is a way to negate that need and actually develop something that's more natural. So whether it's sexual function or something like sleep, I think any measure of the relaxation response and its benefits can be manifested easily, or if it's too hard, too anxious, or your surroundings just won't help you embrace that, it's okay. You might have to get a coach to help you with a mindful practice. But either way, if you embark on this journey, it would be helpful. I think you'll have a good response, but the idea is not to just drop in, get outside, and expect to have all the symptoms that you're suffering from turn around. The idea is to have a regular practice. My suggestion is always, whether it's true mindfulness, where you're sitting on a Zafu pillow and you're playing Deepak Chopra's 21-day meditation CDs, or if you're just getting out to a forest preserve and getting out to walk, try it at least 3 to 5 days a week for about 30 minutes. Don't worry about the speed, don't worry about the intensity, you don't have to sweat. Now, obviously if it's 31 degrees, you want to be trying to get bundled up as best as possible. And when you do, you just see what happens. The idea is to try it, do it for about 4 weeks, and hope the brain will have its pleasure center reward you enough to say, hey, let's do that again. It'll be effortless, versus trying to fight the need to problem solve and that anxiety and stress response coming back in the middle of your beginning. I'll have a lot of people, when they try to sit down and start that mindful practice, the hardest part's when you get past the second or third minute, when your brain does not want to shut down. That's usually experienced at night when you're having difficulty with falling asleep. Well, just hang in there. Usually if you can continue past that, just don't try to get into answering every question that pops up, or else you'll chase that monkey mind, it's called, and you'll not be able to turn it off. If you just, what I learned in Harvard with Herb Benson's mindful practice is just observe, be an observer, have the ideas just present themselves, but don't engage. And if you can do that diligently for about 30 minutes, 3 to 5 days a week, or why not every day, but at least 3 to 5 days a week for about 4 weeks, the habit will be formed. And then you can have some of the effects of it. So nothing happens overnight, especially if you have a very high stress response that you are very good at. So you have to be patient. But just like any herbal medicine, St. John's wort, SAMe, 5-HTP, all of those things that I suggest people try to turn out their stress response, those things take months before you feel the full effects. Same thing with mindful practice. But if you can if you can engage with a walking routine, you hopefully will feel better when it comes to handling your normal stressors. But it does take time. If you want to participate in power walking or speed, or you want to do you want to use sweat and shortness of breath or perceived exertion as your goal for a walking routine, that's fine, but technically that's not really mindfulness practice. So do the walking routine like that to get a good exercise out if you're just beginning, but separate out a mindful practice as well. I think you'll find that both any kind of activity and the addition of mindful practice will make your nutrition restrictions, or will make your nutrition attempts a little bit more sustainable. If you just embark on cutting out calories and whittling down to like 800 calories so you can lose 25 pounds before summer, and not do an exercise routine or not do a mindful practice, I think you'll get by in the short run. But as far as sustainability, most of the studies will show you that as good as you get, if you don't have a well-balanced, healthy lifestyle, the likelihood in 12 months is that you'll probably gain some back, if not all. So the worst case would be if you gain more than when you first started on your journey, but that's why you have to have summits and coaches, a supportive group, and a doctor that will help you plan to make sustainable changes. So hopefully this has helped. I'm about halfway through my hike at Carl Hansen Woods, and you know, I get out for a relaxation practice and stress busting, but just the fact that I'm talking on this video means that I'm not practicing mindfulness. So I'm going to shut this down and then enjoy the last half of my hike and hopefully get what I'm trying to tell you you should be getting. So if you like this video, don't forget to give me a thumbs up. There's a thumbs up with a glove as best as I can. Thumbs up. And subscribe to me for weekly words of wisdom. Remember, spring is coming up, and even if it is cold, blistery cold, snowy, try to prep for what lies ahead. Hey, this is how cold it is outside. I'm freezing, but I have to have my fingers exposed. But you know it's cold when these guys are freezing. He couldn't even make it. Hello, frozen guy. CPR? CPR? No.